Hey everybody. Yep, you get me with the freshly non-shaven face today simply because I've been lazy and tired and don't give a dang. So I'll just scroll through the comments here for a minute. Mike, hey, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Jay, Timothy, Svetlana, I saw you chatting away in the stream an hour ago. And I will answer your question about how to get money here. It won't be a full answer because I actually have a video I'm doing on it. But Mr. W, yep. Yep, it's a live stream. I don't know what you guys saw earlier. I came into the studio and I had strange backgrounds. Apparently, when Mr. Expat American used my studio, he changed my background videos. So if you saw something odd, some concert of some kind, wasn't me. So, yep, Home Alone face. Actually, I don't use aftershave. I haven't even tried shaving. So there you go on that. We're missing Peter, aren't we? No telling. Who knows where Peter's at? He's out and about every day. And so, hello, everybody. So, yeah, 2 weeks ago, I came down with a bit of a virus. And I was just feeling a little tired and worn, climbed into bed, and my temperature went up 1 degree, and it went up another half a degree. And my wife said, I'm taking you to the ER. And my mother-in-law said, nah, he just has a virus, leave him alone. And quite honestly, I wish she had left me alone in the end. So she took me to the ER because I had this slight temperature. Had no congestion, nothing like that. But we got there and they said, gee, sorry, we won't take somebody with a temperature. Go to the other emergency room. So we went to the other emergency room, and first thing that happens anywhere in Russia, if you show up, temperature or otherwise, is they are going to give you a COVID-19 test. They will do an express test on you. And lo and behold, it came back and it said I was positive. So they sent us to the famous infectious disease hospital that my lovely wife was in back a few months ago. Turns out I ended up in the exact same room she was in, except I got the new and improved room. They had retiled it, same tile, but they had re-glued the tile to the walls. The plumbing was equally bad. And but I had a new toilet with a toilet seat actually bolted to the toilet, which she didn't have. So so she already knew the ins and outs of this room. There is a you go through the bathroom, and there's like a cleaning hallway there, and it's a door to the outside, and the cleaning ladies often neglect to lock it. You sign a paper when you get there, says you won't leave the room. But so anyway, we got to the hospital. They did another express test to re-verify the first one. And they swabbed me for a PCR test. They said, well, you have no congestion or anything. Go to the pharmacy, buy this antiviral drug, and go home. Well, what we found out is you can't buy this antiviral drug anywhere but in Moscow. So just went home, went to bed, spent a couple of days in bed, lazy, really didn't feel that awful. And on Tuesday, my wife got a call from the hospital, and they said, we are sending an ambulance for Kevin, and he will be isolated in the infectious disease hospital. So she told them, no, I will bring him, I promise. She took me there, and they admitted me. I was the only one in the room to start with. A little later that day, they put another young man in with me who had COVID. And this is just the way it works here. If you test positive, you will end up in the isolation ward for up to 21 days. Now, I was supposed to be there longer than I was, but, thankfully we have a little bit of pull around here, and Irina got me out on Monday. Didn't have a lot of choice because the cleaning lady lost the key to the back door. I won't say anything about where it may have been, but nobody could lock the back door, and I just made it clear that I was leaving whether they wanted me or not. So they looked at my records. They said, well, Kevin had a little congestion, so we want him to stay for that, but he's beyond the C19 credola, so he could go home. And we convinced him to let me go home with antibiotics for the congestion in my lungs, which I got while I was there, because about 3 days before I came home, they brought in another elderly man in, and by ambulance, forced. He had been to his doctor's office for something, and they swabbed him, and he came up positive. Immediate isolation in Russia. And people say, well, gee, if I get it, I'll just stay home and I won't go. You'd be surprised where you cannot go without being swabbed in this country. You will not get into a local clinic to see a doctor. You will not get into an ER. You will not get into an emergency room. They will swab you for just about any public place, not supermarkets and malls and things, but they will swab you if there's any health related things around at all. They regularly swab waiters and waitresses, anybody in public service. And like I say, the minute you come back positive, you are being isolated. Now, I had zero internet. So people were sending me messages in Telegram, and hey, Rufus, good to see you, bro. So people are sending me messages in Telegram and WhatsApp, and reality is I wasn't getting any of them, people. So if you asked me a question and you didn't get a response, that's why. And you will have to answer me again, because I got no notifications of anything while I was in there. And that was for about 10 days that I was isolated with zero internet. I could send an SMS, not an iMessage. I could send an SMS to a non-iPhone phone. So my sole contact with the outside world was with Chris and Larissa over in Kirch, and with my lovely wife. So that's what I spent the last 2 weeks doing. I feel absolutely fine. I do not have congestion. I don't have pneumonia. I don't have COVID anymore. But be aware that if you get tested here, you will be sent for isolation, and they don't care how good or bad your Russian is. I would say I spoke to one person there who spoke English other than my wife, and it was the doctor's daughter who came in. Mainly, she said she came to help her mother interpret a little bit, but more for the practice with English. Svetlana, Peter didn't bring me jack shit. So, hey, Bruce. So, my wife brought me a lot of food, snuck it through the back door, brought me fresh clothes, snuck it through the back door. At one point, she got caught by a nurse. They locked the door, and the next day, the cleaning lady lost her key. What can I say? So, that is the deal with C19, and I avoid using the full word for a reason because of YouTube. And, that's about all I can say on on that matter. If you get tested, you will end up in an isolation hospital, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. They will send an ambulance for you, and they can pull your registration. So it isn't like you can go and hide from them. You get caught not being where you're supposed to be, and you will get arrested. So, welcome to Russia, where the particular strain that I got, there is no vaccine for it. It's a mild one. It's not as contagious. Nobody else in the house got it. Where I got it, Lord only knows. The only two places I was in the 2 weeks before I got ill was dinner celebrating Peter's temporary residency and going to the doctor's once. I have to turn that off on my Mac. I don't know why they turned on. Some other gesture makes balloons go too, happy birthday. See, if I wanted to do it, it won't do it. So here, let's get some more thumbs up or something. See, it won't do it now that I want it to. Yes, Rufus, she is a great woman, and she brought me all kinds of goodies, salads, and being a diabetic, what they wanted to feed me wasn't very diabetic friendly. It was a lot of porridge and cream of wheat, all made with sugar in it and milk, sweetened tea, sweetened boiled fruits. So it was not diabetic friendly. And when I refused to eat it, then the doctor told them that they would bring me diabetic meals, and they were equally bad. When I met my wife originally, her best friend is a doctor, and she had typical Soviet medical experience with diabetics, and that's you feed them nothing but buckwheat. Well, I can tell you, buckwheat is not a healthy thing for a diabetic either. So they were bringing me buckwheat with no butter, no, just plain buckwheat, and an occasional fish cake that they ground the fish up, and I'd swear they ground up the bones and guts and everything, plastered it together with salt, and it was the nastiest thing in the entire meal. So no, she did not smuggle booze in, Svetlana. We're actually not real big drinkers. So, 6-pack of beer will last us the summer, probably with 2 bottles left over. And we tend to be wine drinkers. If anything, tends to be dessert wines, and usually when I'm making pizza. I like to cook with wine. I occasionally add a little bit of it to the food. So, Nurse Ratchet. Well, the nurses were actually pretty good, Bruce. The food lady was an absolute horror. She would yell at me because I wouldn't eat her food. And I'd show her that I had food, but she was mad I wouldn't eat her food until the doctor had a word with her. And the other one was one of the cleaning ladies. And this is the one who lost her key. She was the nastiest babushka that you have ever seen. She came in one morning and she wanted to clean the floor, and she wanted to clean the bottom of my slippers. So she wanted me to stand up on her wet cleaning rag and wipe my feet on it. And she's yelling at me, top of her voice in Russian, which I turn off. So she got louder and louder until I lost it, and I yelled at her in English. And then she spent the rest of the day coming and going, so then I started talking to her in Italian and English and Spanish. So, but she was one nasty woman. She lost her key. She swore that one of the 3 of the guys in the room had stolen it from her. And we'll leave it at that. The nurses were actually good. The doctor was an extremely good doctor. The weekend fill-in doctor was kind of, yeah, he came, he checked on things, everything was fine. And on Monday and Tuesday, the doctor wasn't in, so they had a head nurse there. And she's the one that Irina bullied a little bit, that if she didn't let me go, I was leaving anyway. So, Mary Grace, why can't you just recover at home? Because they don't want you giving it to other people. So it is a Russian Federation law. If you have C-19, you will be isolated in the hospital. So they allowed me to stay home until they got my PCR test back so that they could tell exactly what kind of C-19 I had. And, and that's it. You don't get to recover at home because they don't want a pandemic. And I would say it's a bit better than forcing people to get vaccines that, like I say, in this particular strain, wouldn't have done any good anyway. So, preventive medicine is everything in Russia. You will find that they do not wait until you get sick and treat you. They will treat you before you get sick. This is an old Soviet thing that carries on to this day. If I say that the measures taken were necessary, Rufus, I don't know. Were they necessary? Um, I would say no, because I'm pretty compliant. I was self-isolating in our house. Of course, our house is, 3 floors. We've got, 9 times 3, so 2,700 square meters a house. So very easy for me to self-isolate and just hang out in bed till I got past it. On the other hand, my wife is a teacher of young children, so it probably was a good thing I got some IVs with some antiviral medicine and some antibiotics. And I do know what the antiviral medicine was. So it would have taken longer to get over without it. And I probably wouldn't have felt as well as quickly. Took about 3 days and I was feeling real good. If I had stayed home and just self treated, I probably would have been about 10 days. So, yep, I'm actually feeling pretty good. The hospital was pretty interesting. The cleaning lady turned all the lights on at 6 a.m., started cleaning. You were up, and by 7:30, the nurses had all the lights out, and you were to be off of telephones if you had one that worked. You were have lights off. You were to be in bed no later than 7 to 8 o'clock at night. Now, I did figure this out eventually. It's because the nurses, they have the room that was right next to where I was, and they would go in there and then they would, they could get comfortable and relax and do what they wanted all night. And you never saw them all night unless you went out and you knocked on the window loudly. They have a window where they pass the food through. And if you knock on that, they'll come out after a bit. So I think this is just their way to get rid of patients at 8 o'clock. How much did the hospital charge me for this? I paid a whopping $0, including all the drugs. So, housed me, sort of fed me, and had a shower, toilet, uh, clean bedding, blankets, and, 0 rubles, $0. Didn't cost a penny. Bruce, do they promote keeping a healthy vitamin D level? If you go and you have blood work done, they will check you for vitamin D. I actually take a vitamin D supplement regularly, even though I get enough sun during the summer. In the winter, I don't. So, thanks, Rufus. I'm here to tell people the truth. So, good or bad, it was no fun. I will tell you that. It killed me to have no internet, not be able to even post a message. But, what can I say? Yeah, Mary Grace, this is the problem. People are supposed to self-isolate, but they tend not to. Russians don't pay a lot of attention to this virus, so they kind of blow it off in general, and this is why they have the laws that they do. So, um, yep, free medical care. Because I am a Russian citizen, I do not pay for much of anything. The state pays for my insulin, they pay for my rheumatoid arthritis medicine. Basically the expensive medicines I have. I probably buy maybe 3,000 rubles a month of medicine, so about $30 tops out of my pocket. But they do give me a disability pension, about 10,000 rubles, that is used to pay for those drugs. That's why they give it to me, because I'm not of retirement age. So their medical system here is pretty darn good. And many of the doctors are exceptional doctors. Like I say, the main infectious disease doctor was excellent. Her staff was excellent. I have a couple of doctors at our local clinic that are good, and I have a whole bunch of doctors there that I don't care to ever see the rest of my life. Um, I have a couple of good doctors in Yalta, and you just have to, it's like anywhere else. You have to figure out who's good, who isn't. And fortunately, we have enough contacts that I can usually make a phone call and get the best on the peninsula. So, yeah, Jay, well, I know what's got you down, and I'm sure it's not COVID again. So, yeah, the warmer the weather gets, the sicker you get, right? So, excuse me. I did have some questions from viewers over the last couple of weeks. All I have to do is find them. And I promised I would answer these. They didn't seem to require a whole video. So question number one I got is, where does Mrs.Irinia teach? Is it locally or in a place like Moscow or St. Petersburg? Irina teaches locally. She teaches in the city we live in and in the city of Yalta. There's Sam going by back there. She likes taking students in Yalta because it's a higher income city. There's more people with more money that are willing to spend it on their children to get them the best education. So she makes double for a student in Yalta what she gets in our local village. She teaches in our village because these are the kids we live with. So she's overloaded with students there. She does have 2 days a week she goes to Yalta, and she may bump that up again. But like I say, if she taught in Moscow, she would make about double to 2.5 times what she does in Yalta, and she's making half here in our local city. So, so that's where she teaches. She does have a remote student that is in St. Petersburg. She charges her normal adult Yalta rate. She's in university. When she's home, she is here doing studies remotely. She's got another one in another city on the peninsula that also pays her for remote lessons as well. University age, which is what her preference is, rather than the little kids. I like the little kids. They're really cute to talk to, and they're so full of life, and they want to practice, and they want to tell you about their lives in English. And it's just amazing to see how well these kids do. So, okay. Wow, 19K in the ER in the US. Yep, I've had those bills. So, question number two. I guess if I close the second window all the time, with the relatively recent conflict, why have you moved to a place like this, even though hostilities may have subsided? Okay, well, let me clarify. We planned to move here 20 years ago, and we bought our first apartment here back in the 2014 timeframe, and moved here full time in 2020, so 2 years before any conflicts. And that's the story. That's why we moved here. We liked it here. Now, the conflict going on. Um, it's part of life. People don't pay a lot of attention here. You know, people in the West, they tend to worry about, gee, I'm close to a war zone. What if a drone drops on me? Whatever. Russians don't worry about that. They're pretty stoic. I think Svetlana will agree with me on that. Um, you know, they don't worry about things. They figure that when God says it's your time, it's your time. Now, where we are on the peninsula, it's relatively quiet. Sevastopol gets a lot of attempted drone strikes. Not as many now that they've moved the fleet out of the harbor. Now the target in our direction tends to be either Kerch or Krasnodar. And Krasnodar tends to be a target because they have the oil refineries over there. So it's relatively quiet on the peninsula, other than the northeast, the west coast, which is closest to Odessa. And ever since those terror attacks in Moscow a couple of weekends ago, there's not a lot of stuff coming out of those areas. Kharkiv has pretty much been decimated at this point over the last 2 days. And unfortunately, but they were warning people to evacuate Kharkiv because the Russians were going to be coming in full force. And as what they found is they have people from Donetsk and Lugansk heading to Kharkiv, expecting the Russians to come in. So they're making advances along the entire front, and things are speeding up. It's a bad situation all around, and it just isn't a good thing. It's time for it to end. It's time for some people in Western countries, leadership, to get themselves straight. So those of you still living in the West, thank you, Jay. Those of you still living in the West, keep in mind, particularly the U.S., you have an election coming up in November. So you've got the Democrats blowing smoke up your butts about Ukraine and needing to help them with more money. And if you look at the money, that $62 billion, 2/3 of it is going back into the U.S. military industrial complex to buy the United States weapons. It actually isn't helping Ukraine at all. And the third that is going to Ukraine, yep, there's the thumb up again. The third that is supposed to go to Ukraine is supposed to be for them to use to borrow to buy weapons that we don't have to sell them, so they won't get them until roughly 2026. So they're blowing smoke up your butt about that. When you have bridges collapsing, in the northern states, when you have gas prices running what they are in the United States and in Canada, when your food are, run so high and inflation is so high, unemployment is higher than they're claiming it is, because, of course, if you have a part-time job or if you're unemployed and not looking, you don't count in their numbers. So it's time to take a good hard look at what the Democrats are promising you. You throw Israel and Gaza into that, and they're giving you a bunch of lip service right now. Bad Netanyahu, they bombed some food trucks, and the whole West is up in arms because 6 white people and a brown guy got killed in 3 food trucks. Tracked over 1.8 kilometers, almost an entire mile. They struck one, guys climbed out of the truck, climbed back to the second one, then they struck it. And when the guys that survived went to the third truck and they tried to evacuate them in the third truck, they struck them. So, yes, they have arrested some officers and soldiers. I don't remember the number, 5 or 6, for not following procedures and making a mistake. Reality is they had a cleared path with the IDF to the warehouse to where they were going to deliver food and back. There was no mistake in this. This was purposefully done, and it's to keep humanitarian people from coming in and passing out meals. And the West is now up in arms over, like I say, 6 white guys and a brown guy that got killed. But nobody's saying anything about 40,000 brown guys that have been killed since October. So the Democrats and their bad Netanyahu, and Netanyahu going, oh, well, I'm mad, so I'm not going to go to the United States. He gains from this because he gets to say, look, I'm standing up to the United States. It's good for him and his government. And, I don't want to keep going on about this. It's another bad situation. Israel has the right to exist. They have valid complaints with Hamas. They do not have valid complaints with the Palestinians. And it's another bad situation that the Democrats in the United States are blowing smoke out everybody's butt to stay in power. Now, are the Republicans any better in the United States? Quite honestly, no. Why aren't they pushing aid through for anybody? Is it because they're outstanding citizens, and why should we waste money on Ukraine when our own citizens could use the money? No, it's because it's their way of saying, vote for us because obviously we're the good guys and we care for our people. And then they will turn around when they're elected to office and they'll do the same thing. It's time to have more than 2 parties running the United States. And I'd say if you really look real close, you actually only have 1 party. So, yes, I've been ignoring your comments. So let me take a quick gander here. Yep, life is peaceful here for the most part. Yep, the lies are innumerable, Rufus. Mr. Wonderful, I have the feeling Biden will be reelected, whether he deserves to be or not. Even though he's not campaigning, the guys who actually run things, the military industrial complex, will make sure that either he is elected or they will let him become president long enough to put Harris in there. I think if there was a real democratic vote like we have in Russia, Trump would have a good chance of winning. I don't think he has any chance under the political system in the United States. I'll be nice because you're not supposed to talk disrespectful about the president here. I won't talk disrespectful about the president there, but let's just call him Joe Cookies and Cream and be done with that. And I'm not necessarily talking about the ice cream he likes. Yes, 70% of the casualties are women and children, if not more. Judge Napolitano is a good friend. He had a student who called him a couple of weeks ago, and the student's friend was a pediatrician, Egyptian pediatrician, working on the Gaza Strip, and he was caring for 2 children, 2 little children, and the IDF came in and they shot him and the 2 children. No adults in the room or anything. This just isn't right. Like I say, I think both sides have some good arguments with each other. I hate getting going on the subject. It pisses Arkady off because Arkady is very, what can we do? We have no choice. Everybody always has a choice. Hi, YouTube user from Minnesota. You're watching Dan, so missed the beginning. No worries. Dan's a good friend. I look forward to him being back very soon and his getting married. People are giving him unending trouble in his Telegram channel about how it will be impossible for him and Ksenia to get married in Russia. I can tell you that it isn't that difficult. There is certain paperwork that you have to get and bring with you. And Dan and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. He has everything he needs. He will get married. It is not going to be a problem. Christopher, hey. Elder abuse. Yeah, you're talking about, I don't know if you're talking about me or Biden, but let's let it go at that. Hey, Christopher from Sweden. I know where you're from, bro. Okay. Question 3. Is it possible for you, if you're on any visa, to purchase an apartment or a home in Russia? It's a complex question, but it's not a complex question. If you are here for any reason on a visa visiting Russia, you can buy an apartment anywhere you wish. There are no restrictions on buying apartments. In borderlands, you cannot own property. You can own the house, but you can't own the property that the house sits on. So most foreigners will buy an apartment if they're coming someplace like Crimea, Krasnodar, Sochi, up around St. Petersberg, anywhere where there's borders with another country. There are several regions that have restrictions on foreigners owning property. So you can buy an apartment no matter what visa you're on, as long as you can afford it. But, you know, a house, it depends on where you want to buy that house and land. If you want to buy a house and land, contact Tim Kirby, good friend of mine. He's got houses and land for sale that are starting construction soon. Okay, next question. If it's only a certain one, which one is it? So I answered that all in one. Okay. This question actually comes from the Maverick News chat last night because I didn't have time to get to their questions while I was on air. But we were talking a little bit about the attack at the Crocus City Hall and the current state of people, what this country has done for them. At this point, 2/3 of those of you who don't watch Maverick News, 2/3 of the people injured or killed in that terrorist attack have received all of the financial aid that the government has promised. Yesterday at airtime, that was 2 a.m. our time here in Moscow, there were 34 people still in the hospital recovering. They had just arrested an 11th person, another Tajiki, who his family helped him move to Russia 3 weeks before that. They got him a residency permit here, and then he received money from somebody and moved into this set of apartments that all these other people were living in that were affiliated with this project. And when it came out that he was arrested, his family was literally driven out of their apartment that they lived in. And his own family back in Tajikistan disowned him and the rest of his family for what they did. So they did get video and pictures off of his cell phone of him being with Ukrainian soldiers, standing in front of a Ukrainian tank. Uh, so pretty disgusting tie. Um, this is a question I got that I didn't answer in the last couple of days. Somebody asked me on Telegram, and I said, it isn't a big deal. Because some of this money was transferred by way of telephone number. Banks in the East here, and that's Russia, Ukraine, Armenia, Georgia. I don't know. Mike can tell us if Poland is this way or not. Pipe up out there, Mike. But I can go on my bank app on my phone. I can type another Russian user's phone number in, or Armenian, whatever, and I can say send them this much money, and it shows up in their account immediately. So some money was transferred this way. Some was transferred from bank card to bank card, which is relatively common here as well. You can do it on your mobile app. And this money has been traced back into Ukraine. And but cryptocurrency. Apparently, there was a lot of cryptocurrency that was used to get funds between the source and the people in Russia who committed these terror acts. And somebody asked me this a few days ago. I didn't think much of it. And I said, don't worry about it. Yes, you can still take crypto. You can still convert it to rubles, but it's gotten extremely hard to do so here. Most of the exchanges have had their ability to convert to rubles shut down. One I've used for 3 years now, I can no longer, make transfers that way with them for an indefinite period of time. I should have known this when I got a phone call from somebody in federal security asking me if I could help them track Bitcoin transfers or crypto transfers. And, it's something I worked on with them. And, now I get to tie the pieces together as to why. So, moving money by crypto is getting extremely hard. It also is not a cheap option. Svetlana, you asked this in the previous stream. I can actually get money here for people using the SWIFT transfer system. I won't go into how in this video. I will actually do a video on that, giving some of the details, not a lot of them, because I obviously don't want to close the problem down. See my previous one about what banks you should open bank accounts with if you're a Westerner coming to Russia. And the reason is because they are the ones that I can actually transfer money into. So SWIFT is the way to go. It is not cheap either. It's a $100 minimum fee to transfer it from that bank into a Russian bank, or 2.3%, which is the larger amount. So, a $300 transfer is going to cost you $100. Hey, Aguar, how are you? So can get money back and forth here. Crypto is getting a little tighter, and it's because of the terror attacks. Will they be lifting those restrictions? We will have to see. The exchange I use is one of the largest available out there. I also have accounts at a second one that I can still do transfers through, $300 minimum, but they were given 86 to 1 today, and my regular exchange was at 94 to 1. So they're making money on you either way. Is the Russian investigation still ongoing? Absolutely. One thing you will find about Russia is they will not stop until they do exactly what they said they will do, and that is locate every single individual responsible. So that's just the way it is here. They are people of the law. Um, so part of that, where I started with this, is somebody asked me last night, why does Russia allow Ukrainians to cross the border into Russia if they're having so much trouble? Well, realistically, Russians and Ukrainians are brothers and sisters. Um, you can say, well, no, they're the enemy. Eh, reality is families are mixed. My wife being from Eastern Ukraine, uh, for as long as she's been alive, has had relatives in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, other relatives in other areas of Crimea and Ukraine. Um, it's just the way it is. These are families. This is almost like a U.S. Civil War situation where you have the North fighting the South, but you have brothers fighting against brothers, sisters fighting against sisters. So Russia does not hold anything against Ukrainian people. They will, if you are from Ukraine, scrutinize you extremely well to let you come in. But I have many neighbors who are Ukrainian, and the whole thing you hear about Ukrainians can't leave the country and they can't go anywhere is really propaganda BS that you're getting largely from the Russian side. We have people who come here every summer. We've got neighbors who've already come for the summer with their cars, with their Ukrainian plates. Yes, they are searched when they come across the border. Their documents are checked. Their social media is checked. Their telephones are checked. So you will be scrutinized. Now, I hate to tell you this as Westerners, they have now also, as a result of these terror attacks, tightened up the restrictions on you coming in as well. It used to be that a somebody from like the UK could come here and they could spend a maximum of 180 days in a calendar year in the country. Now it's 90 days. I don't know how this will affect people from the US because the US has a separate visa treaty that allows the 3-year multiple entry visas. Americans can typically stay here 180 days. They have to leave for 24 hours. They can come back in. And I haven't seen how this may or may not affect them. Reality is the United States does not follow this visa agreement with Russia anyway. Russia follows it. This is why you can get a visa to come to Russia. For a Russian to get a visa to go to the United States, extremely difficult right now. You will not get it in Moscow. You have to go somewhere like Armenia to the US Embassy to apply for a visa. And they're putting appointments for Russians out to summer of 2025 right now. So that's the earliest you'll get a visa appointment. And so, yeah, they allow Ukrainians to go back and forth. They have people with Ukrainian documentation that lived in Mariupol before Mariupol was destroyed and rebuilt. They do not have to take Russian citizenship to be given a new apartment there. If they show up with their Ukrainian documentation showing that they were registered in an apartment at this address, the Russian Federation will give them an apartment. They will give them support, money, medical care, pensions. They will take care of those people. So it's, and a lot of this terror stuff that we have that goes on in Russia is not caused by the Ukrainians directly. It's usually caused by the SBU spending their fancy Western money to pay people that are either Russian citizens or outlying groups, some of these terror organizations that are historically attacking Russia, the Tajiks, You heard about this ISIS-K thing. That was a bunch of BS. This really was, you know, one of these old organizations left over from, one of the two Chechen wars. But, these are the guys that they're paying. They're already in the country. They can, more easily get stuff across the borders from Turkey or wherever they can buy stuff from. So our biggest issue is not Ukrainians coming in from Ukraine. Um, you know, and don't get down on the Ukrainians. It's like getting down on the Palestinians. Um, you know, they have a military just like Russia has a military. They do their jobs. And if you talk to the Russian guys on the front lines like I do, those guys actually do their jobs well for what they have. And they're in an absolutely awful situation because of their government. Much like you guys in the United States are in a terrible situation because of your government. So, travel with BG. My extended family has folks from Ukraine. Yep. Man from Ukraine, younger brother or woman whose mother was from Ukraine. Yep, they're very interwoven. My wife on her mother's side is half Russian, half Ukrainian. On her father's side, she's half Russian, half Ukrainian. So, and like I say, relatives all over the country, both countries, all three countries. Let's throw Belarus in there as well, because realistically, they're the same people as well. So, that's the story on the border. Oh, yep. And I hit this one already. As Russia shut down crypto to ruble exchanges, they have shut down many of them, and they are likely to shut down many more here in the coming weeks. If they do open them back up, it will be similar to in the United States. You will not be able to make a transfer anonymously anymore. You will have to be able to identify yourself to be able to do these transfers. And this is how they're preventing terror attacks. This is what this current conflict is moving to. There is no real military left in Ukraine to speak of. They cannot fight as a cohesive military anymore. So they are going to go to guerrilla attacks, much like this one in Moscow a couple of weeks ago. We do expect to see more. So, correct, Alex. We are not in a conflict with the people of Ukraine. We talk to many people that we know in Ukraine on a regular basis. Have to be very careful. My wife will actually talk to her friends in Ukrainian and not necessarily on the telephone. So, yeah, there's lots of ways to move to Russia. And actually, Jay, yeah, you have to be a little bit careful about making your recommendations for people on programs. They are not as simple as you think they are. Travel with BG with family ties to Ukraine. Your family that has Ukrainian ties qualifies for a simplified process for Ukrainians to come to Russia. They do not qualify for what Jay's talking about, which is the repatriation on ancestry ties. So, Jay, you're incorrect on that one. His family, the Ukrainian side of the family, would qualify based on the simplified Ukrainian immigration process. It still has some additional documents and things that are required. That's actually what my wife took her permanent residency and citizenship based on. And it still took 3 years. So, if you have questions about things like that, feel free to send me an email. We deal with this on a daily basis. And travel with BG, if you have Russian citizenship, you have no worries then, bro. You just hop on a plane and come. Yeah, everybody, grassy knolls hanging on to funding for Ukraine. It was interesting to see that congresswoman that's Ukrainian is refusing to fund Ukraine. So it's good to see when people actually grow a set of cojones and stand up for what they should be doing, which is protecting their people, which is, I will give Vladimir Putin a plug on that. No matter what you say about him, no matter what you try to accuse him of, he takes care of his people. This is why so many people supported him in the elections. He takes care of his people. And he doesn't care if his people are in Russia, the United States, Belarus, Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova. Vladimir Putin will take care of his people. So, travel with BG. Well, if she's planning to visit Crimea, let me know. We actually have one room available right now, and we'll have a second one shortly. And hopefully a couple more rooms over the summer. So, any questions since I have no more? Yeah, I'm pretty high on Putin too, Mr. W. I have been called a Putin apologist, but reality is I will call him out where he's incorrect or I disagree with things as well, which is something we can do here. When you hear the things that we do not have freedom of speech here and we can't talk about certain things, I'll mention that actually is not true. We have free speech here. We can criticize government officials. We can criticize the president. We cannot be disrespectful. This is the exact same freedom of speech law that the country of India has. You can disagree with somebody. You can tell them what you disagree with. You have to talk to them respectfully, though. So this is no different than India. It is not a free-for-all here. How long have I lived in Russia? I've been coming here for 20 years. Well, 20 years ago, it was Ukraine. But since Crimea has been Russia, I've been coming here. I've lived here full time since January of 2020. Is there any leader in the West who takes care of his people? And if not, why do you think that is so? Svetlana, I can't answer that one for you off the top of my head. I can only speak to the leaders that I'm intimately familiar with, which happens to be US and Russian. I don't have anything bad that I can say about Lukashenko and Belarus. I do know some friends that are Belarusian who get mad because I call them Belarusian and not Belarus people, who would disagree with me on that. But I think he takes fair care of his people. But that's a very, outside view of things. Oh, look how my colors change when I move my hand. White, tan, white. I can be a white man. Now I can be a brown man. Look, I can be killed on either side of the Gaza conflict. Yeah, I try not to blatantly propagandize for Putin, Rufus. Like I say, I generally try to give both sides of the story. But yeah, I know about your free speech problems, YouTube user. I'm actually from Minnesota, so I know that you have a liberal democratic governor. but maybe Jesse Ventura will win vice president with Trump. Yeah, Lukashenko's not the West. Svetlana, like I say, I don't know. I cannot point at Trudeau and say he takes care of his people. I can't point at Biden and say he does. The new Mexican president, uh, you know, the case is out on him right now. I know that Mexicans are very big on him and what he is doing for their country. This is a subject you can discuss with Dan Castle. He will tell you that Mexicans are for Mexico under this new current president. So, does he? Time will tell. We've got 20 years of experience with Putin to know what he does. So, Svetlana, your question be answered only privately within a kitchen confines. Well, in the West, maybe travel, but here we can answer it. So, yep. I don't envy you guys over there in the United States in this election year. I think you have a bad choice and another bad choice. And, your independent choice is a third bad choice. So they're all out for themselves, their own money. They are not out for their people. And, this is what people need to start demanding. When you have bridges falling apart, well, you're spending billions and billions of dollars to help a country that's already been defeated just to kill more people to try to weaken Russia. That is a sick, sick story to try to live by as a government official in the West. I'll be doing some videos about it. I read a good book while I was in the hospital on the East versus the West and how far back it goes, back to the Great Schism between the Catholics and the Orthodox, and before that. So I'll probably give some input on that eventually. There is a communist party in the United States, Svetlana. There's also a socialist party. Caleb Maupin is a hardcore socialist in the United States. But they have about as much chance as the guys who ran against Putin have. So, yeah, Jay. Excuse me, losing my voice already. Yes, as Jay said, like, comment, subscribe. Those of you who support us understand that YouTube has us demonetized. Although they're allowing me to stream because I made some changes they requested of me and have promised not to be posting content from other channels, despite the fact that I was involved in creating those videos. We no longer make any money and we have no memberships available to us on our channel here anymore. So those of you who have already, Bruce, gone over to Rumble and subscribed there and joined our locals channel, made contributions there or sent contributions by way of Boosty, we do appreciate it. We no longer take PayPal. We had somebody who got in trouble making a donation through PayPal. So buy me a coffee, boosty.to, or locals. Those are the ways to support us, or directly with Bitcoin. The link's in the description. So, and yeah, so they continue to make, yeah, I agree, Jay. More comments under the video, the better for the algorithms. The more I respond to, better for the algorithms. It still doesn't earn me any money on YouTube. They have pulled my monetization. So if I get 1 million views on this video, I will make zero from YouTube. But they will make all the advertising money on it. I will make nothing. So I would rather see you commenting under Rumble and watching on Rumble, where we actually make a little bit. We make very apparently the CIA says I've said enough. So yeah, PayPal's Russophobic. They bit somebody on that with us, and you know, that's the way it is. Rumble is the place to go. Yeah, I know I froze Jay. The CIA decided I said enough. So go out there, vote for Trump, who won't change anything, or vote for JFK Jr., who won't change anything. Go find some independents and start putting your support behind independent politicians who actually will support you as a citizen of the United States. Or move to Russia, become a citizen here, and then you have a president who cares about you. So that said, I'm going to let you all go. Yes, I will continue streaming to YouTube. It generates the views that I can then push off to Rumble. And we're also up on, yes, this is streaming on Rumble right now. We've got several channels there. We've got American in Crimea interviews, American in Crimea, where we put a lot of our regular Crimea stuff. And I have an InfoWars press channel over there as well. So that is kind of where we're putting our pennies at the moment. And we are uploading videos to zen.ru, the Yandex product. We actually got monetized with them within a couple of weeks, but they don't let us do live streams. So it's another good place you can catch us. I'll have links coming out shortly. So thank you, Rufus. I appreciate you subscribing. Like I say, we've got 3 channels over there. Subscribe on all 3 of them. And you'll get notified no matter which one we go out to. Did I hear the neighbor country ask the EU to close skies to Russian and Belarusian citizens? You know, Jay, you know as well as I do that this neighbor country is full of crap. And they can ask whatever they want. It doesn't mean anyone's going to do anything about it. You got Turkey just, pulled out of the European joint, whatever it is, military agreement. Georgia has just pulled out of it. So you will not be able to isolate people from Russia. Will they pull people off of planes? I've heard of it happening, but reality is book your flights right and you have no problems. Again, if you need somebody, I have people who can get you here. So, thank you, Mr. W. Thanks, Travel. Thanks, Jay. Jay is following someone who is crossing the border between Estonia and Russia by car. Oh, well, they should have known about 6 months ago that you can't cross from Estonia to Russia by car, particularly if you have Russian license plates on your car. They will take your car away. So this is called do your homework before you do something. Too many people pack up, sell everything they've got, load up their suitcases, get on a plane coming here expecting that they're just going to move on in. Russia will not guarantee they will give you residency, so don't do it. Do not decide that you're coming here to get married to somebody without checking into what you need first. Just like you can't go off to Mexico and not have the proper documentation with you to get married over there. These things only become problems if you don't do your research ahead of time or contact somebody who actually is involved in this stuff at a daily basis, like Irina and I, and we can help you out. Yep, Turkey is already withdrawn from the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe, and so is Georgia. So, and of course, the U.S. is asking Armenia to withdraw from the CTSO. We'll see what happens there. A lot of Russians live there. So, that said, longer stream than I intended of doing. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you being here. I hope the video stays up because we use the C19 word. It's another reason why we've been streaming stuff to Rumble as well. So you may find us doing shorter shows on YouTube and the longer shows on Rumble. Next week, we will have Mr. Arkady Itkin with us. And he and I have a little bit of a disagreement about Israel and Gaza that we will discuss. And we have a little disagreement about what free speech means that we will discuss. So I'll try to get the announcements out earlier. Take a look for those, and we will see you either here for part of the discussion or on Rumble for the whole discussion. So thank you all for coming. And good seeing y'all again after a couple of weeks. Morden Ronbro, Irina's former student in English. Let me guess. Are you an adult that used to come here to the house? Then I know exactly who you are. Or you're somebody in the United States that used to be one of her students. Now that would be a Russian student. So, but anyway, welcome. Good to see you. And you can find, our link to Rumble. Gee, what a bad host I am before I close things out here. Rumble us. You can find us on Telegram. And well, I don't have my Rumble one here, so let's create one. https rumble.com/American Crimea or American Crimea interviews. So that channel is our general Crimea stuff, gardening, travel stuff around the peninsula. This is our Saturday stream and when we're interviewing people. So those are two of our channels on Rumble. I will make sure I get those in the descriptions. They are on Telegram right now, and I will get them out on our website, which I have not been keeping up because it just hasn't been worth my time. So again, thanks everybody, and we will see you next week. Artur, yes, I remember you, Artur. It's been a long time since you've been around here. Been missed around here. I see you out on the streets all the time. Staying out of trouble. He's a good boy. He speaks great English too. So, okay. We'll catch you here for part of the show next week, and we will catch you on Rumble for the entire show. So, have a good one, everybody, and thanks again.